Hello everybody, this is John Felt. Welcome to the NCGA FMC Ag Weather Outlook for September 26, 2015. For most areas it's been fantastic harvest conditions. You can see the areas in brown, very few if any rain days over the last 7 days. But for an isolated area, like I mentioned in last week's briefing, that area in green right along the Missouri River between Nebraska and Iowa, that area has been a bit more problematic with more days of measurable rain than not. And you can see it very clearly in the last 7-day rainfall. Virtually no rain over most of Missouri, eastern Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, most of Indiana, just light rain over Ohio, very little over Michigan. Likewise over most of the Dakotas, but just this one area here. But in this area, there was 2 inches of rain in the areas in yellow, and especially these areas in red, as much as 5 inches in spots. Now, that's a very small percentage, but if you're in there, we're probably talking about some pretty wet soils right in this very narrow area. But everywhere else, conditions are very good, and they have been very good. We see this here, this area in yellow, widespread area in yellow. That's saying for the week about an inch less than normal. So normally fall is a pretty good time. That's why we harvest. It's dry. But this is saying it's even been drier than usual. So it should allow a lot of field work over the last week, with the exception of that one area in blue and purple. That's an excess of 2 inches to as much as 4 inches of rain for the week. So the question is, how long will this relatively mild and dry weather last? And this week we see again an area of brown, and very simply put, when you see that area of brown in the jet stream, it means the jet stream is further north than normal. And when the jet stream is further north than normal, that generally means that conditions will be warmer than normal. Now we're going to have some variation. We're going to start off with a bit of cool air pushing in, but then we're going to rebound. Now the ridge of high pressure, or the axis of high pressure, is generally to the west, so most of the area of above normal temperatures, at least the more significant, will be in the far western Corn Belt or even west of that area. But still, most of the area is going to be warm. And we see that this week, even though we're going to have some variation. I think we're going to average either near to a bit above normal, maybe not excessively so, but 2 to 4 degrees above normal over many areas looks like a good bet. So if we go out into early October, we do see some signs of a dip in the jet stream over the eastern Corn Belt, a little bit more amplitude, so it's a little bit more amplified into early October, and that means that I think we're going to see a little bit more contrast in temperature. We could see some light precipitation as this jet stream dips, and it'll probably moderate the temperatures back to normal. Now, this model here is saying a bit below normal over the eastern Corn Belt, near normal elsewhere, but here's that warm temperatures here, cooler temperatures here, and because we have the jet stream bowing in this region and dipping here, we're having a bit more of a temperature gradient. Nothing extreme, but after this week, maybe even 10 days, we could be a little bit cooler in the eastern Corn Belt early October. Then as we get towards the middle of October, 6th through the 11th, it looks like, again, a fairly quiet jet stream. I don't see a lot of energy in here, but I do see a little bit above normal, not as much amplitude again. And I want to make one note. Something we're going to look for as we get towards late October into November is this secondary severe weather season. And what that shows is that we have a transition between fall, which is usually quiet, and early winter, which starts to get more energy in the atmosphere, and that brings the possibility, as we still get some lingering warm, moist air with this initial cool air or cold air for winter, some more energy and possibility of severe weather. I don't see that on the horizon right now, but that is something I'll be talking about because I always find it interesting for one thing, but also I think it's something from a climatological standpoint we need to keep an eye on. So temperatures as we get into early October, you can see nothing all that remarkable, near, maybe a little bit below normal, but I think I'd characterize it as near normal. Okay, so temperature-wise, some variation this week, but averaging above normal. And then the next 2 weeks as we get into October, nothing remarkable one way or the other. Most likely a bit above normal over the western Corn Belt, a bit below normal over the east. Okay, so now let's look at the all-important precipitation forecast, so we can continue to keep ahead of schedule as far as harvesting. Here's the next 7 days. It almost looks very similar to last week. A very localized area, some rainfall above an inch, but everywhere else, the central and eastern Corn Belt, very dry and very good conditions. Eastern Iowa, most of Michigan, most of Wisconsin, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Missouri. So anywhere from the eastern part of Wisconsin on east, eastern Iowa, Missouri on east, looks like it should be pretty good. So here are your anomalies for week 1. And then, well, let me go back to week 1. That's pretty much just what I'm saying is most areas are going to have that light shade of yellow. It looks very similar to last week. It's really amazing how similar it looks. Okay, week 2, and in fact 3 and 4, I think right now nothing indicates that there's going to be a widespread heavy rain. That does not mean that there will not be any rain, but it does look to me like the tendency is more on the dry side than on the wet side. And you can see that in week 3 and 4. Now, there is a little bit of green here, so if precipitation were to be a bit above normal, I think we're looking at this area right in here, and that's climatologically based. There is more precipitation in this part of the nation this time of year than over the eastern Corn Belt. And here's week 4. Again, a fairly quiet type pattern. So I think the takeaway points today are overall, for most areas, good harvest conditions will continue this week and most likely for the next couple weeks as well. Mainly dry this week, except for some isolated heavy rain right in the central part of the Corn Belt. I don't see any signs of any widespread wet weather that are going to slow things down. And temperatures look like they're going to average above normal by the end of this week, and then moderating a bit to a little bit above or a little bit below as we get into October. Now, if you have any real specific questions, I know this is a critical time of year, you can always email me at john@BlueWaterOutlook, and I'll answer your specific questions about harvest weather. So if you have anything very specific for your area, feel free to send me an email. I'd be glad to take a stab at answering your question. Be safe out there, and I'll be talking with you again next weekend.